It's time for Ask Your Auntie, the show that gets real with teen girls about life. They ask, and we answer with tea. Tools for excellence and achievement. The goal? To help girls make better decisions in real time. When you can't ask your mom or G-Ma, ask your auntie. Now here's your host, Marissa Terrell, Esquire.
Got questions? Ask your auntie. I'm Marissa Terrell, but you can call me Auntie M, and I am director of the High Tea Society Foundation and the host of this podcast, Ask Your Auntie, where we provide sugars, also known as teen girls, with reliable answers to their questions. Now, I'm thrilled to have an opportunity to speak with Auntie Natasha. Auntie Natasha is the executive director of the Mayor's Office on Women's Policy and Initiatives. Hey, girl, welcome.
Hi, Auntie.
I'm so happy that you're here today. So it's wonderful to see you again. Now, we met recently, right? Back in April. It wasn't that long ago. We were at the National Women's Museum Gala.
Yes, absolutely.
It was really beautiful. What a pretty, pretty place. They had done a wonderful renovation, and we were in there celebrating. And I think the highlight for me was Tracy Ross.
Tracy Ellis Ross, okay.
Getting her award in that fabulous dress. It was just wonderful, right? But how long have you served as a director of the Women's Office? That's my shorthand for that office.
Yes. MOPI. We go by MOPI.
MOPI? Okay.
Yes, I've been there for 2 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? What's your daily like?
So we have 3 pillars. Okay. One, all of this is in the umbrella of serving Mayor Muriel Bowser's administration and her vision so that every D.C. resident has a fair shot. Yes, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. That looks like health and wellness. It looks like civic engagement and economic empowerment. What does that look like in practice? We have a lot of pop-ups where I'm either on a panel or we're tabling and connecting with people. Okay. If you talk to us, we want to connect you to a resource.
Please. Yes. Thank you. I love that because that's part of what we also try to do. It's such a shame when people just chat it up, but there's no takeaway.
Yes.
There's no action.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. There's a lot of free resources in DC, a lot of great connections that everybody doesn't know about. So now we have another plug.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Okay. So I asked Auntie Natasha to join us today because she's from DC.
Southeast.
Okay, Southeast.
Southeast.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. All right. So there's some synergy right there. And so I know that she has the tea to help girls succeed in Washington, D.C., not just because she's a local, but because she survived high school, went to college, and is now living her best life.
Absolutely.
Right here
Back
in
in
DC.
Southeast, too.
Back in Southeast. Okay. But Sugars, what do you think? You know our rule. We cannot take advice or directions from someone who is lost. All right. So you think that she can offer some helpful advice? Well, let's try to learn a little bit more about Auntie Natasha's high school years. Okay, first of all, what is your full name?
My name is Natasha Tamika because we got pizzazz Dupee.
Okay. Yes, Natasha Tamika. Okay, and so you said you grew up in Southeast. Well, where about?
So right outside of Anacostia, there's a small neighborhood called Fairlawn off of Pennsylvania and Minnesota Avenue, Southeast, with the emphasis. Let us know.
Okay, I know this area. I sort of was a hop, skip, and a jump, sort of a little bit up Pennsylvania, near Branch was where I kind of hung out, but
very
Back
familiar.
in the day. So now you are, I think, maybe a little younger than me. What was DC like for you back when you grew up? What was it like?
So high school for me, I'll say I started in 2004.
Yes, younger than me.
So, yes.
Okay.
I remember the buses had different names and numbers. Okay, that's the thing that happened.
Yeah.
But also Penn Branch Shopping Center, where we now have Chipotle
And like a restaurant. Downstairs,
right?
like a sit-down tablecloth restaurant.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So the CVS used to be a laundromat. Okay?
Yeah.
Lots of things have changed in that neighborhood.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. It's been a bit. Okay. So this is DC back then. All right. And did you grow up with like a big home? Were you one of many siblings? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I grew up in a fully detached house, which I didn't know that was a name for it then. But I had a yard. Big yard.
Because people need to understand Southeast is the greenest part of DC, in my opinion.
Yeah, we had lots of trees in our yard.
Lots of trees.
Pear trees.
Right. Okay, no, I didn't know that.
They've been removed since then. They had a time. So walking distance from Anacostia Park, Fort DuPont Circle was my hanging grounds. It was a beautiful time to be in Southeast. Music on the corners, right? Folks sold fruit. I remember going to school every day. My mom would buy us fruit and a newspaper in the car on the way to school.
Nice. I remember that time in Southeast, well, sort of maybe a little earlier, but it was like, this is where all the Black people were. This is people, doing all kinds of things. I remember holding my father's hand and we would go through Anacostia, all of those areas in Southeast. And you felt safe.
Absolutely.
It wasn't kind of like things are now.
Well, I think I still feel safe.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think one thing that I will say that I noticed has shifted. When I was in high school, my dentist was at the big chair.
Yeah.
Okay. My family went to
There was a medical building
Yes,
there.
it's a medical building.
I went there too.
Yes.
Okay.
I had my braces. Okay. Changed my rubber band colors. But my family, some of them went to Union Temple.
Yeah.
Some of them went to Resurrection Baptist Church. So again, very much Southeast.
Yeah.
Lots of choirs. And so I could walk in any neighborhood and know that someone might notice me because of my family, because of our connections, because of where we maybe not had as many shopping amenities, but thinking about, again, our dentist, our hairdresser.
Yeah, everybody was
there.
Everybody. All our services were in Southeast. Yeah. That was the one part of the beauty of that
It was
time.
community.
Correct. Okay, but high school. Now, so high school, what was that like? Where did you go?
I attended the School Without Walls Senior High School
I know
in Foggy Bottom.
Yes, all the superstars were there. Yes. Okay, tell me more.
Okay, I took the 30 bus every day, 32, 34, 36.
That's right.
You would walk depending, I could hear the bus coming when I tell you this, and I would either run up the hill or down the hill depending on where I heard the bus because I needed to get to school on time. My oldest sister, Tristan, is 15 months more senior than I am, and so we attended school together.
Nice.
There was no uniform.
Oh, lucky you.
I had uniform K through 8. And then we transitioned. School Without Walls had a pretense that you always dress for success.
Okay.
At that school, at that time, you could go to school and have a field trip without notice. And so we signed a blanket permission slip at the beginning of the school.
Walls.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes. So we could end up at the Library of Congress. We could be at the State Department.
Oh.
And so you wanted to dress for success.
Because you never knew.
You never knew.
Okay. So was this a co-ed school?
It was co-ed. So we had girls, guys. And I think the other part that was special about School Without Walls, we had international students.
Okay.
So there was always about 10% of our grade level contingency that had lived abroad or were from a different country.
That's great exposure. I love that. Okay, so what type of student were you?
I was a student who did every homework assignment, that read word for word, that took notes, and would ask if the teacher did not give us homework, what was the homework assignment? I was that student. I was that student, okay.
I get it. And your best friend, did she or he go to that school with you?
So actually, no.
No.
And I think that was a part of a surprising pathway for myself from our generations before. Again, I'm 5th generation Washingtonian, and most of my family went to H.T. Woodson or Bellevue. Yeah. And so there's like this steep history, right? And they knew their best friend from kindergarten. And so I could trace my elementary, middle, high school, and each of these points, I would have close friends, but they may not go along in the same educational pathway as I did.
And look at that.
And that's okay. My family has this saying that you may be different, we're not better, right? And I think that keeps us anchored, and you can have different trajectories. Everyone can have a different path. And again, like I said, when I came home, we're still community. We're still fellowshipping. We're still together.
I think that's beautiful. I think that was part of what helped to shape me, going to, a school in Georgetown, taking the 30 bus, but having a really strong community at home so that you have like the best of both worlds. You're confident because you came from this sort of loving environment where people are looking out for you. You can go to these places and still be yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your life in Anacostia. Before we jump into our questions today, is there someone you want to dedicate this episode to?
Absolutely. First of all, Auntie M, you are doing a phenomenal job.
Oh, thanks.
Like you said, if you can't ask mom, if you can't ask grandma, you can ask your auntie or your godmom. So as a godmom, I'd like to dedicate this to Ryan, my goddaughter.
How nice. Okay, Ryan, this episode is for you. Okay, let's jump into the first question. And I think this is right in line with what we've been talking about. Here it is. I got accepted into AP English, but my best friend didn't. Should I take the class by myself?
Absolutely, go for it. Let's do
Really?
it. Yes. Okay. How does this work, Sugar? Okay. I've been listening. I hope y'all tracking. Okay. Yes, Sugar.
Did her homework.
I told you I read word for word. Okay. Like I said earlier, my best friends at the time, it was a group of 4 of us, and we all went to different high schools. Someone played track, another person played football, and then another friend did no extracurriculars. However, we were all very tight. And that's okay. If I'm going to do something, again, I'm going to share what I'm doing. So you might not read the same books as I'm reading, but I'll tell you about it.
Okay.
And that's okay. I think we can scroll on different social media pages. I don't follow certain pages, but you can share that information with me, right?
What a nice way to put that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You might follow certain celebrities. Okay, we talked about Auntie Tracy earlier, Tracy Ellis Ross. I might follow Gayle King, and then we'll come back and we'll share about it.
Because that's the whole point. You get to have all of these experiences, and now you got something yummy to talk about, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. I remember also when we were talking, you mentioned something about it, the privilege of knowledge.
Yes. So I count it joy to experience something new. There were many times where, again, if you think about Southeast in that time, if you think about even our communities today, to go from a loving environment to a place that might be unknown. Mm-hmm. And so every day going to Foggy Bottom, I'm passing the White House. Every day when I'm going to Foggy Bottom, there might be a presidential motorcade.
Right.
There may be a protest or some type of political demonstration. And there's a different level of alertness. In these environments, right? It's not necessarily a residential community to be in Foggy Bottom. However, the joy of learning, I have internalized because I get to have an opportunity at something new. Okay. And so we'll take it. What some folks say, you don't knock it till you try it.
Right.
And this was an instance, especially in education, where it says, hey, let me try something new. I know what I already know, and there's some things that I don't know that I didn't even know. And so again, I can keep what I decide that I believe is necessary.
Right. It's that exposure. I remember my mom used to always say, you can't ask a question until you know half the answer. Like sort of like being able to take that information that you pick up in all these different places to inform what you discuss, what you question. It's helpful. The more information you have, the better your questions will be, you know? Okay, here's another one.
Okay.
Why do I have to take a language in high school? This is America, right? Why is that necessary? Don't we all speak English?
Listen here. Je parle français, on peut parler malgache. Okay, I've learned French, Malagasy, Spanish, a little bit of ASL, okay? Happy Pride. It's Pride Month in DC. I think there's a way of communicating to people, even with the English language, for which we know there's regional dialects, right?
Well,
and we know that sometimes people can talk to you and you don't feel like they're communicating with you. Someone told me, I believe it was my 8th grade English teacher, Miss Armstrong, she said you have to speak to people's listening. And so some people have a listening that English is our strongest language, but there might be a Southern dialect, right? I saw something this morning that said, per happiness, per, not pure, per happiness. And that might resonate with people depending on where they're from, right? I don't have to compromise how I speak to be heard, right? I can listen to you and understand that you're speaking to my spirit. And so similarly, we want to solve lots of world problems, local problems, buy things. I think that's where my language acquisition came from. It's like, I want to be able to shop where I want to shop.
Okay.
And so I needed my Spanish, okay, because I like empanadas and pupusas, okay? I needed my French if I were going to the African hair braiding shop. When I started listening and I could understand, okay, we're talking about hair, but they're talking about families. You ever heard what's going on in a hair shop? Okay, you get to be a part of the conversation, and you get to travel,
right?
And I feel in a different level of ease, some safety, because I can hear and communicate.
Right, and you never know where you're going to end up.
Correct.
So again, having this privilege of knowledge, as you've said, also can expand to the languages. So now you have another reason to go explore.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, it's like a part of your arsenal. Okay. Here's another question. All right. My family never attends any of my basketball games. Why don't they want me to be great?
Oh, a pressure. Let's back up here. Okay, sugar. First and foremost, most parents have commitments. We are one of those commitments if we're one of their young people. However, a financial commitment is also very much important, and so they might have to work.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. I think the other concern, too, if you're like a person from my family, my parents may have been parenting or having commitments for other children that are not the children of their households.
Yes, true.
And I think that again, I count it a joy that we can be a blessing because I know, like us aunties here, there are a lot of adults who also step up and share with us, even if they're not our parents. And so I hope, and it is my expectation, that even if a parent is not present at a game, you have teammates, you have coaches that are there, and they're committed to you. And so being able to receive love, even though it may be from an unlikely, unsuspected source, right? That coach showing up and staying every day after school, right? That parent, there's always like the parent who is not a coach, who comes to all the things. Right. Being able to accept if it's the Capri Sun, if it's the thing, say thank you. And understand that is an embrace of love as well. It's like a surrogate parent.
Yeah. I think you mentioned something about a found family.
Yes.
What a unique term to describe that. And I also love how you are able to flip this cup upside down to see it as half full, right? Not empty. So looking around to say, who is here?
Yeah.
Who is here to support me?
I'll give you one example.
Okay.
Here, because again, I'm here from behalf of the mayor's office.
Yes.
So we do 2 programs. One is called our sister circles.
Okay.
And so sister circles are like the High Tea Society podcast, but in person, okay? And so we have 2 special schools. One of those schools has a drum line. And so we often see them in parades. The mayor walks in parades and we have a drum line. I saw girls from that parade. I saw them in a parade yesterday. But some of the girls were like, oh, Miss Dupee, oh my gosh. And I was like, hey, I heard you were going to Banneker. And the girl lit up because she was like, not only do you remember us,
you remember me.
But you remember me and you know something about me. Yeah. And I think that there are so many times where adults remember young people. I carry young people in my spirit. Me personally, I'm lifting you up in my thoughts. I'm trying to figure out how I can connect you. I'm like, okay, so when you go to this school, let me make sure you're connected to this program after school, right? I think sometimes we as young people, this is Natasha in high school, right? When I think about found family, I think about the person who was like my Miss Dupee. We had a program called High Expectations. They would come in, they would talk to us. Yeah. And then that person offered me a job, my first job.
I see.
And so, again, I think sometimes, sugar, listen, don't block your blessing. Do not block your blessing. Your parents do the best that they know how. And one day, we may become parents. And this word grace is going to be needed in abundance. Okay?
Yes, we're doing the best we can. I love that perspective. That's nice. It's a nice way to view it. If we think of each other as all of us trying to strive and do the best, even though we might make mistakes and all, that grace is really helpful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm learning so much. All right, here's another one. Let's move into a sort of pivot a little bit. So the question is, is God real? If so, how do you know? Okay, that's a big question, and it's a personal one. What do you think?
Okay, so let me take my hat off for a second. Step from my work position. I think my posture, literally, this was the devotion that I had today. There's a saying that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things that aren't seen. And so just as we can trust that there's wind, just as this was the example today, just that we can trust that there is an underground water source that opens up the faucets and that you can put your cup underneath, right? There is, I believe, a universal force that is connecting us to one another. I think also about mental health. And I think that many times we use a universal force. People acknowledge as God, Jehovah. There's lots of names for this universal force. I think for myself, you can ask any staff member I know or anyone who's been around me for at least an hour, there's going to be a song on my heart. I think part of that connection to source, connection to calm, connection to mind regulation is very much important to stay motivated, to get up. And so to ask a question, is God real? I think it's to ask a question of, is there something that is connecting each one of us to get up every day and to keep moving forward? And so I think it's great to grapple with that question. Or, Sugar, you might not say grapple. You might say, I might be processing that question. But again, I think personally it is faith for me, a critical component in how I show up.
Agreed. I think it's very important to sort of sprinkle that into conversations like this, because I know part of my development and the success that I have had, whatever that might be, attributing it to not just what I know that I can do, but from the prayers of other people who have been lifting me up for a very long time, right? Grandparents and family. I think it makes a difference. And you'd be surprised the people who are praying for you and for your success and just trying your safety, and you wanting you to do well. That sort of spirit and energy, I think, is palpable. So, yeah, I think it's a real force for me. It's definitely been what's helped me propel me forward. And part of what the High Tea Society is trying to do is to infuse the love of God, that sort of love that's not judgmental, but like a love that is more than charity, but it's like family. That's what we want to share. And that's what I can hear oozing out of everything that you're saying. That's why you're here. It's because we care about you, Sugar, and we want you to be your best self and to find people, a support system that can help you. We are here.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You talked a little bit about that morning routine because you gave us something about your devotion. What is a morning like in your house? So you get up.
Woo!
Give me a morning routine. This is our next question. What is your morning routine?
This is great. If you live with other people, which you probably do, Sugar, I hope you have a set of headphones, because I wake up, and as soon as I wake up, I say, Alexa, play. And we get a playlist started. And so John P. Key and me had a good praise break today. But usually I pick an artist and I'll say play music by.
Oh, nice.
And I have a radio station called Thank You.
Oh.
It's through my Spotify. Okay. All the songs for me are gospel songs. Sometimes, I think Spotify doesn't pick up what it should be all gospel. Sometimes they put a little something else in there. But I think an attitude of gratitude goes a long way. And I notice a difference if I start my day and I don't have a song. Again, this is just me. I was in the band. We talked about you played flute. I play saxophone. Yes. And I sing in the choir, too, at church. And so when I have a song, I know that I'm starting off with positivity. Yeah. And so there are things that are going to come up throughout the day. That's literally the day, the start, middle, and the end. And I think setting the intention of I'm going to go out and I'm going to stay to myself, stay true to myself. Yeah. I have to have that spirit of gratitude.
Okay, so it starts with the music for you.
Oh, okay, of course, you got to do the hygiene portions, too. We're going to do all the hygiene.
All of that.
Like 3 outfit choices on the bed every day. I'm like, what am I wearing? Get dressed based upon my mood, okay? Do we need accessories? I am the accessory, okay? No, but yeah, no, every day there's music. And my family, my dad says there's no mission without nutrition. There's no mission without nutrition. And so I had a reflection that I left my bacon in the microwave, but that's okay. I had a yogurt and some fruit too, but making sure that we are feeding our spirit, so that's the music portion, but also feeding our physical bodies is very critical.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a difference what you eat. It's like, not that I'm just realizing it, but I wonder when it gets to be noon and I'm like, what is wrong with me today? Yeah. Could you eat something?
Eat something.
Tea is not food.
No. Oh, and then slow coffee. And so maybe you're not drinking coffee yet. Slow coffee is a concept. My friend said it. Zoe, hey girl. Slow coffee is when you brew it.
Yeah.
I do a pour over, so I have to stand with my coffee.
Right.
And so, again, as I'm listening to my music, I'm experiencing the aroma from the coffee. It's not the K cup.
So good.
It's not the K cup. Even if you did a tea bag, you have to seep your tea.
Yeah.
Right? You have to sit with a couple minutes. It causes you to slow down.
Yeah.
And I love tea. Let me explain something to you real quick, real brief, sugar. If you keep your tea bag in the water too long, it'll become bitter. And so, again, being very mindful of, I'm going to spend 3 minutes steeping this tea. Alexa is my device who also sets my timer, so my house is always chirping because I'm like, Alexa, play this song. Alexa, set a time for 3 minutes for my tea. And so being mindful, if you're drinking tea, if you're drinking water with the lemon zest or whatever you're doing in the morning, slow down.
Yeah.
Last thing I'm going to say, since I shout out my dad, no mission without nutrition, what my mom would say in the morning is spend 5 minutes on yourself.
On yourself.
And so not the running around, packing the backpack. Look in the mirror and spend 5 minutes on yourself. If it's brushing your edges, if it's flossing your teeth, if it's adjusting the collar so it lays correctly, spend 5 minutes looking at how beautiful you are. Telling yourself, I got this. My face is going to stay with a smile, not a frown. Affirmations to yourself, okay? That's what my parents would tell me in the morning. Okay?
Oh, yes. We keep a Post-it, one of those giant, I got a the long Post-it to the left of my mirror, and it has on a couple, it starts off with the things God has done, and then it's like a couple of like things for me to repeat, like mantras, to remind myself that, okay, yes, you got this, you can do this, you are beautiful, you are a great communicator, like whatever, to set it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's important. All right, this is probably going to be our last question of this day, what do you do to cheer yourself up? Everybody has a lull sometimes in the parade, right? A day when you're just not feeling your best self. Everybody can't take the day off to save, to sort of make room. So what would you do to cheer yourself up?
Okay. So there's so many ways that I can do this. I'm going to break them down real quick, okay? One, I love our parks and recreation system. DPR has been my friend for quite some time, or the Parks and Rec system. And so I love to swim. I love to exercise. And so physical wellness, again, just as we would feed our bodies, we're feeding our spirits, we have to train and exercise, right? We're stretching ourselves. We're stretching our mental capacity. And so part of my work is to go in nature or to go to the gym. So either way, that's going to be my pump up. And if I can't get there, I'm going to dance in the living room. It's been holding me down for 3 decades, okay? A good dance break.
Yes, that was COVID for me. I would do that because I would be like stir crazy working from home.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. All right. So thank you, Auntie Director Natasha Dupee, for sharing your tea with us. Growing up in D.C. is hard, but sugar, you don't have to do it alone. Join us every week for reliable answers to your questions. I'm Auntie M, Director of the High Tea Society. You can contact us via IG. Find us at High Tea Society INC, or by email. Send us an email to hello@highteasociety.org. If you want to donate, go ahead, please do. Text purple tea, one word, to 44321. We have the tea to help girls succeed. Tools for excellence and achievement.
You've been listening to Ask Your Auntie with your host, Marisa Terrell, Esquire. The transition from girlhood to womanhood can be difficult without guidance. We have the tea to help girls succeed. When you can't ask your mom or G-Ma, ask your auntie.